A nigga like me, man, I love the game. I love the hustle, man. I be feeling like one of them ball-playing niggas, you know? Like Bird or Magic or something. Yeah, you know, a nigga got dough. A nigga could leave the league. But if I leave, the fans still gonna love me, man? I get love out here in Harlem, man. I done sold coke on these streets, man. Hash, weed, heroin. As long as niggas is feeling it, a nigga like me can hustle it. That's my gift in life, eh? You know? What? The fuck you laughing at, B?
You, man. Funny, man. You a hustling motherfucker, man. For real, baby. You fucking killing me, man.
Well, you know me, baby.
Hey, y'all. I have a confession to make. When I make my videos, a lot of times I get in a little mood or I get hyped up and I just talk, you know, I just let it go. I just say what I feel, you know. And I don't really give it any thought in the sense of, you know, delivery or, you know, using my full vocabulary and trying to, you know, show intelligence. Because quite frankly, to be completely honest with you, the message is the message. Whether or not it is delivered eloquently and calmly with the best wording, or whether or not it is delivered, you know, ghetto, or not necessarily ghetto, just, you know, when I come on this channel, I don't show my face. I don't say my original government name, because what I'm trying to do is it's as if we're two old friends sitting at the bar and we're, you know, I'm talking and I got a beer and I'm just freestyling. So many of my subscribers, when they hear these videos that sound like this, they assume ignorance, and I can tell, you know. There was a sister that came in and said, I didn't understand what you were saying under the Derrick Jackson is full of ish video, you know. And to me, the points were quite clear and concise. You know, I'm not going to go back into why I felt the way I felt about that video, but I'm just telling you now that that's pretty much what it was. Now, in the Monique videos that I made 2 Monique videos yesterday, basically going through that interview that she did at Power 105. And I pretty much went blow by blow, step by step through that whole, I went blow by blow, step by step through that whole video. And I just systematically, I think, outlined why. Now, did I use a lot of expletives? Was I turned up, as they put it? Yeah, I was turned up, but I will stand by what I said. I don't care who believes or says whatever. I will stand by what I said. And my point is this, in a whole, you know, if I wanted to break this down into a whole, you know, brief synopsis or a nutshell, I would just simply say that black people in general don't understand business. We don't understand business. You see, rule number 1, when doing business or trying to attempt to do business, leave your feelings and emotions at the door. That's rule number 1. Never under any circumstances are you supposed to get your feelings involved in a situation where you take it personal. Now, people do a lot of dirty, underhanded things in business to get over on people, and sometimes people do let their feelings get involved. But a lot of times, if you can remain calm, think logically, and, you know, operate under these circumstances, and remember rule number 1, you should be successful. You should be persistent, because what's going to happen in business, you know, there's a learning curve. There's Murphy's Law, which states what can happen will probably happen. So you have to be careful in doing business. And me doing this Monique video yesterday, I was, the reason that I did that video was because I wanted to explain beyond the shadow of a doubt that when black people do business, we're unprofessional. We make it emotional. And because black people value words over tangible things, I talked about this when I talked about the Colin Kaepernick stuff. When Michael Vick told him to cut his hair, I was called a coon. I was called all types of names. We as black people have to understand certain things. There's business, and then there's, you know, personal emotions and things like that. And you have to learn how to separate the two. You have to. And I think sometimes we don't. And the reason we don't is because a lot of times we're still slaves in our mind. And I know that's been bastardized and used so many thousands of times, and everyone thinks they know what they're talking about. And so, you know, okay, here he goes. Here, let me hear his definition of what he thinks it means to be a slave. Well, for one, let's look at the difference between a field nigger and a house nigger. That's what I'm gonna say, nigger, not nigga. Nigger, right? Both of you were owned by the master, right? Both of you were in a situation of bondage, right? But the difference between the field nigger and the house nigger was that the house nigger was comfortable. The house nigga did never, under any circumstances, did he look at his master and say, damn it, I'm your equal. In fact, I can be better than you. I can own this land. I can own this, you know, these crops. I can make and generate the wealth that you generate because I'm the one out here picking the cotton. You see what I'm saying? I'm the one that's the house nigga's mindset. Now, that, of course, the house nigga didn't really pick cotton per se, but you get what I'm saying. He's the one that runs and manages the plantation and handles a lot of his day-to-day exploits on whatever that the master would have him do. The field nigga was the one that also ran the plantation physically by going out and picking the cotton day to day, and they would work them till they dropped dead. A lot of wealthy landowners and slave masters would run these slaves in the ground and to death. So there were certain plantations where you'd be lucky to make it to 35 years old. They'll get a little 7-8-year-old and work him to death. 8-9 months, he's dropping dead, working him out there in 25-degree weather. That's, you know, that happened, right? So the point I'm making is this, people. The field nigga wanted his freedom, but see the difference between the field nigga and the house nigga was, and once the house nigga understood, look, I don't really care about freedom. I just want to be comfortable on the plantation. I just want to be comfortable. A lot of field niggas didn't want to break free because they felt like, you know what? I don't know if I'll make it, and I'll get caught, and I'll fail, and I'll either get, you know, embarrassed. You know, because a lot of slaves, you got to understand, a lot of times slaves were embarrassed as well by letting the master take them and pulling them out in front and whooping them and doing things to them. It made them look, you know, in the slaves, I'm sure other slaves, after he got whooped or beaten, I'm sure other slaves would say, man, you stupid. Why did you try to run? So a lot of times they would deter you. Other slaves would deter you from trying to get free from the plantation. Not every slave on the plantation wanted to be free, be it field or house. But the thing I'm trying to say is this. The few field niggas that understood that they wanted to be free and wanted to and valued their freedom, I'm gonna tell you something. The mentality was different. First of all, they looked at their master, and by default, if you want to be free, what you have to understand is what you're also saying when you say you want to be free is, I'm just as good as the master and I can survive and sustain myself. I can compete with my so-called, you know, slave master. I can do what he does. I can go out on this earth and use my life force energy to generate resources to sustain me and my family. And some of them were even more ambitious and said, not only can I do that, but I can run my master out of business if given the opportunity. Because let's go ahead and be real. Not every slave was stupid. Although a lot of them were most of them were illiterate. That doesn't mean ignorant. That doesn't mean stupid. That doesn't mean that they didn't have cognitive abilities. And so the point I'm trying to make is that today, and I'm likening that today, and most black people today have an employee mindset. If you look at the way things are, 90% of the wealth in this country is owned by whites. So a lot of us think it is white people's birthright to own and control businesses and to sign the front of our checks and tell niggers yes and no. And I'm gonna still say niggers, because that's the mindset we have. We don't have what I would call a ruling class mentality, because a ruling class mentality shows and demonstrates that you understand that I can rule through power. I can understand and control the means of production within a nation. I can look you in the eye, white guy. I can look you in the eye, Asian, Indian, whatever, Hispanic, Latino, whatever, and say, look, I'm your equal. I can compete with you. I am just as good as you. You are no more intelligent. It is not your God-given right to win. We've lost that. We have lost that. And that is primarily why I am a proponent of Boyce Watkins. I don't give a damn what his motives are. I don't give a damn if people say he's selling people hope. Because see, I'm gonna tell you something. When you have hope, you go do research. You see what I'm saying? In all that getting, make sure you gain understanding. That's what the Bible tells you, right? So my thing is, look, are you gaining understanding? Are you going out and looking for that empowerment? See, because if you don't at least first believe in your mind that it's possible that you can compete, that you can actually sign the front of a check and not the back of a check, then that's the problem. Shout out to the homie David Anderson, Edward Anderson. We just had a hangout today. We were talking about that same thing. Most black people don't have a ruling class mentality. I mean, I'm gonna go down. See, and I'm gonna start with Monique. I'm gonna give you a great example as to why Monique and most black people that are defending her don't understand this. See, we as black people will bitch and complain about the master. I'm gonna word it the right way so you'll get the concept. We will bitch and complain because the master who owns the plantation doesn't want to give us a paycheck. And so now what we feel like we're going to do is we're going to go and shame the master into giving us what we want. But now let's look at the track record. Has that worked? You see, we got to understand that the civil rights generation, and I'm not one of those ones that tears down the civil rights generation. I think they did the best they could and what they thought was right. Now, was it right? No. It wasn't the right thing to do to push for integration and get jobs from white factories and companies. Malcolm X said it best. He said, we are in no moral position to ask for jobs from people when we have no jobs to offer them in return. He said you should own and control the economy within your own community. He says the white man is only doing what he's supposed to, and he's not wrong. You're the one that don't know what to do with your community. This is what he said. You're the one that's not doing what's best for you. He's not wrong. He's doing what he's supposed to. Sustain power. Amy Schumer is Jewish. You want to control. You want to come in the white man's house or the Jew's house and point the finger because they feeding their own children. You want to look at Amy Schumer and people like Drake and compare them to a black person. Well, first of all, you don't own and control anything. You're not the master of that plantation. Now, I hate to say it like that, but I'm sorry. I mean, that's the name of the game. If you work for somebody, they winning. They're winning. If I'm punching the clock and let me tell you something. When you time pedal, be it for 2 hours and do a comedy special, and they sign a check for that as a contractor, you still just self-employed. You're either self-employed or an employee. There is not a business system that Monique owns whereby if Monique goes and sit at home for 3 years, she'll be in jail because first of all, she's behind on her taxes. Secondly, she will be bankrupt. That's the issue. Black people don't understand this. And to me, it baffles me when I see someone in a situation where they're making millions of dollars and they're whining and complaining about someone like Netflix. And I'm going to explain why, because I know what people are saying. Well, what are you talking about? I mean, Please explain. And here we go. Okay. First thing I said in my video was start your own shit. That's what I said. Verbatim. That's what I said. I said we need to start our own streaming. I said if Moni had a problem with Netflix offering her such a small amount, why not start your own net streaming service? And I know what people say, well, it ain't just that easy. You can't just go start a streaming service. Well, let's first of all, when you have a ruling class mentality, you'll do research and find out, well, how much does it cost? That's the first question you ask. See, this is the thing. This is why I mess with or support Boyce Watkins. Boyce Watkins puts the idea in your mind to ask that question. Once you ask that question, see, now you're going down and there's a certain causality to it where you're going to get to a certain point where you're either going to get the knowledge. Once you get the knowledge, it's on you to either use it or understand that when you go to Netflix, that I can do what Netflix does, but I would have to have this. It's okay to have a job. I'm not knocking you for going to have, we can't all start with millions of dollars. But you need to understand, okay, how did this person get here? When you go to a job, you look at this person, you don't just take a job just for a paycheck. You take their job and you try to ascertain the knowledge and say, how did this white guy get to where he is? What did he do? What was he doing beforehand? See, a lot of these white companies, I'm going to be real with you. These people started with $10,000. I'm just being real. I've worked with, it's not all just, hey, I'm white. Hey, give me a business loan for $700,000. It's not always like that. I know that's what we like to think because that makes us feel good about our lack of productivity. See, because black people, if you really want to tell the truth, we don't produce a lot of times. And when we don't, we just want to say, well, you're producing because you're white, and that's bull. That is bull. Okay? When I say on my channel that there are no black people are without excuse, damn it, that's what I mean. You are without excuse. And I'm going to show you why in this video, why Monique, because she can empower herself. Everything she needs is right there. It's as if she's sitting in the forest surrounded by trees with all the tools and equipment that she needs to build a house. Everything. And she's complaining and crying because nobody's going to give her a house. You get what I'm saying? She wants to be comfortable, but she has all the talent and notoriety and tools to build what it is that she needs. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's go. Okay, first of all, I'm going to ask that question. There's a channel, a website by the name of Hyperlink Info Systems, because when you type the question, if you go and say, how much does it cost to make a streaming service like Netflix, how much does it cost, right? There's these people that'll pretty much build you one, but it'll range anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. Monique claims she makes $1 million a year. So let's make this math easier. Let's say you make $50,000 a year. $25,000 is a fourth of a tenth of her net. So a tenth of your net would be what? $5,000. So a fourth of a tenth of your net would be $1,200 for a person making $50,000 a year. You bring it home after taxes every week, about $900. So let's say it takes you, if you're disciplined, let's say it takes you 3 months to save up that $900. Now, for a person like Monique, it won't take her 3 months. Why? Because if she has her spending habits under control, then all she has to do is do one show. Surely she's making at least $10,000, $25,000. I'm saying 25 for the high end. But let's just say she wants to start it at $10,000. There you go, right? It's even easier for a person. Now it's just 1% of her net. 1%. So 1% of your net is $500. That's not even a week's pay for Monique.
I'm sorry, people. I meant gross, not net. I'm sorry. Carry on. Thank you.
You get what I'm saying? It's not $500. I'm saying $500 for the average Joe Blow that makes $50,000. But for Monique, that's not even a whole show. $10,000. What's she getting about at least $25,000, and that's right now on the Chitlin circuit. She's probably getting $20,000 a show minimum. So no, she said they gross $1 million a year, probably less, but they probably at least making anywhere from 600 or more. And let's look and let's do some more research. I'm gonna go. There's another place. There's another company by the name of Contus, www.contus.com. They give you a comprehensive online video demand solution. It says Contus V Play is a custom-made VOD video on demand solution to meet any enterprise grade and industries to engage and monetize. Our cloud platform has the potential to create, host, and secure your videos with a single dashboard. So, I mean, you know, people may look at that and say, that's not as easy. You're making it out as to look more difficult than what it really is. Okay, maybe I'm right. But at the end of the day, let's look at this other company. Let's see. There's another guy by the name of Chris Kurdziel, Kurdziel. I don't know what type of name that is. He's the director of Vimeo. I'm sure most of us have been on the Vimeo platform streaming videos before. Someone asked a question on a Google question, Yahoo Answers or whatever, and this is what they say. What do I need to do? What are the steps? Now I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be completely open and honest. So I'm not gonna try to say there are some minds in the field, if you will, as to what it would take to get there. But I just showed you the price is $10,000 to $25,000 for one company. I found 3 companies just in a Google search in a few seconds that showed me what I would need to do to create my own streaming service. Now I'm gonna explain what she can do with that in a second, but let's get to it. Okay. He said there are a ton of things that make up the relatively simple UX of, I don't know what he means, of a service like Netflix or Hulu. He says getting content rights, expensive. Well, first of all, Monique doesn't really need content rights because she's creating her own content, number one. Number two, Monique has 25 years of experience or more, 30, 40. If Richard Pryor was calling her the Mrs. Richard Pryor before he died, I mean, she goes way back. Paul Mooney, she can start a basic streaming service. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm gonna go there in a second, but she can start her own streaming service. So getting content rights, you're not trying to stream, Mission Impossible or something. You're not trying to get the rights to Terminator to be able to stream. You're not. Okay. It says storing and transcoding video, delivering the video from the cloud to quickly reliable, usually via CDNs. Even this alone is complicated to do really well at the scale that Netflix does it. Now, I know people are saying, well, damn, I mean, it's complicated to do it at the scale Netflix does it. Well, you got to understand, Netflix has millions and millions and millions of subscribers. I'm sure when Netflix started, because a great example was when they were talking about, what's her face? The lady that used to be with Chris Rock. And she was saying that they offered her $250,000. And she, the gay lady, I forget her name. And she basically said that, and you got to understand, when you first start a business, it's a streaming service. So if just if it was me and I wanted to create a streaming service, what I would do is I would get something, because if you wanted to create something like YouTube, you could. You can go to guru.com. There are people in India that work for $10, $12 an hour that will develop apps for you, that develop applications for you. So let me keep going.
Also, just to piggyback on that, there are a lot of prepackaged software packages that you can buy and scale up that are already pretty much modeled after Netflix, YouTube, even Facebook. I mean, you can buy prepackaged social media platforms for like $300-$400. I've seen them. So now I don't know about a streaming service, but who knows? I mean, but I don't think it's that expensive.
Rights management, which customers have access to what content. So you got to understand, okay, if you create a user, what does that user get access to? You have to have some way. Now, all of this is what the other company that I mentioned will do. But he's going to mention another company. But let me keep going. Payments, how do customers pay for your service? Apps and end user services, Given the multitude of platforms, you'll probably want a bunch of apps on a bunch of different platforms, be it, what is that, iOS? Well, basically that's iOS stands for Apple, basically like iPod, operating system, Android, Xbox, PS4, Apple TV, Roku, etc. Analytics recommendations. Much of the value of Netflix is in their robust data. If you're building one of these services, you probably want a lot of data about how your content is performing and how your users are behaving. So you want to manage how long they watch stuff, how often, what times a day, what parts of the country, what parts of the world, who's streaming where, why? Because I do business intelligence. I'm a BI developer. And although you guys hear this thick country accent, when I go to work, I'm not the country bumpkin guy that you think I am when you hear me acting crazy on YouTube. So the point I'm trying to make is this: when you look at the analytics that they're gathering, they gather these analytics and they store it probably in a data warehouse. You need a back end. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, I mean, you're getting a lot more difficult. No, I can get a data warehouse. I can get the software from Microsoft, all that. We're talking about maybe to get everything about $25,000. Because the $10,000 would probably be for just to get you started, which is what she could probably buy to start. You see, and then you go and you start talking about the back end, having the analytics, so you can get an email every morning showing you how many people streamed the stand-up comedy show that Monique did or whatever when she went live last night and streamed her own show. Now, let me see what he says at the beginning. He says, if you're interested in doing this, there are services like VX Launch Your Own Streaming Video Service that make it pretty easy to launch your own subscription video on demand, or SVOD service. In particular, VHX handles everything in the list above and even has an API in case you're interested in doing some things like building your own apps on your own. You see what I'm saying? Why did I go through all this? Because I want you to. Now, he named another company, and let me see if I can find. Let's see. There's Vimeo, there's Kuntas, and there's another company that what's his face? Kevin Hart used, and I think they went through Vimeo. Kevin Hart has his own streaming service already, Laugh Out Loud, LOL. And you download it and it streams like a lot of comedic things. He's doing interviews when he's going. Kevin Hart already is pretty much doing this. Now, the thing is, Lionsgate did it for him. You see, we as black people, we don't have a ruling class mentality. Now, Lionsgate, Jews, pretty much that's what it is. They have the rights. I'm sure Kevin Hart, I may be wrong. I don't think he has any ownership in this. I don't think he's, I don't think he's pulling the strings. They're just using his likeness more so. If he does have ownership, then hey, more power to him. Now and I'm gonna tell you something funny. I'm on YouTube and I'm saying this, and they're gonna probably be people that come in the comment section and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about and that I'm full of shit, right? But the thing is, somebody white or Jewish came to Kevin Hart and said the exact same thing I said. They didn't give you all the slave and all that in the ruling class. They didn't say that, but they said, hey, we're going to start a streaming service and we're going to allow you to stream your comedy over that service. And we'd like to use your likeness. And here we're going to give you, I don't know, $1 million to do it, or $500,000, or $5 million. And he signed it. Yeah, sure. He signs the check. Bam. Now they're marketing this with his likeness, right? Kevin Hart draws eyeballs, man. And now he goes on Instagram and mentions it. People start subscribing, and those people are making $6-7 million a month when they gave him $5 million one time to use his likeness. You see what I'm saying? So this is how money is made. This is how things work. They are basically harnessing the life force energy of Kevin Hart. That's all they're doing. So I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry. Forgive me if I'm not just boo-hooing for Monique. I'm not going to do it. I'm not one of the people that's going to feel sorry for Monique, because we have got to get to a point as a people where we start owning and controlling our own image and owning out and controlling our own likeness, and we control the narrative, man. Start control. How do you control the narrative? Well, first of all, you don't bitch, moan, and complain and beg for people to give you things, man. That's the problem I have with people like Monique, is that she doesn't. You know, maybe I'm being too hard on her. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just not. You know, when I get on YouTube, a lot of people, you know, and I know people say, well, man, you got insecurities because you're from the South. It's not that I have insecurities because I'm from the South. It's just that whenever I say something, it's looked at as, you know, it's just looked at as something that is just, you know, I don't know, futile. People just throw it away as frivolous, and I don't have time for it. So I'm gonna end this video. What I would like to say is this: we need to develop a ruling class mentality. That is why brothers like Boyce Watkins are important, because he speaks to that. He speaks to, you know, the idea that it's not the white man's God-given right to sign the front of the check. It's not the white man's God-given right to own every damn thing that is around you right now, that you probably look around wherever you are in this video. If you're in the United States of America, 9 times out of 10, a white man owns every damn thing you see. Everything you see. The apartment complex you're in, the place you go to work, the car you drive was manufactured by a white man 9 times out of 10. Even if it's a foreign company, they come to America and they white people are the executives in these companies. I'm from Montgomery. Hyundai plant came there. They got a lot of white people in the corporate headquarters doing these Asians and Indians and people that are coming doing business with white people. White people own and control 90% of the wealth in these countries. I mean, in this country, in the United States. So what are we gonna do? And Monique, the problem I have with Monique, this is the problem I have with Monique. There are 2 sides to this whole equation. And when you think a certain way, you see it for what it is. I said at the beginning that business is not about emotions, right? Let's take our emotions out of it. Her and her husband went to Netflix. They were trying to get a special, right? A stand-up comedic special, right? She found out that Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock had gotten 20 million each, and Amy Schumer got 13 million. First started with 11, went back out another 2 million, right? She felt as though she was warranted more money than $500,000, which is what she said they initially offered her, right? Stay with me. She got so offended by the fact that they offered her $500,000 that, I mean, she claims that they didn't get a chance to, well, her husband claims that they didn't get a chance to counter, right? Now, the problem is the email that they released, that Monique and her husband released in their angst to really prove her innocence, and that she didn't turn down the $3 million offer that everyone said she was really offered $3 million, and she turned that down. In their angst and hurry to get that out, the problem is when they release the email states that our numbers are too far apart. So obviously they gave some sort of number that they are refusing to, release. Now the problem is 2 things. Number 1, she's not being confidential. She's talking about private negotiations in the public, which anyone in Hollywood understands that's not good for business. If you and I are negotiating a price, and I'm known for negotiating with other black comedians like Tiffany Haddish and other comedians and so forth, other smaller comedians, right? Well, I would want you telling everybody in the world what I'm offering you and what we're discussing is price. That's number 1. I wouldn't dare want you putting that out there. So what you've done is you've probably shut the door for other comedians to come behind you that are maybe not as legendary, that maybe don't have an Oscar for a movie that's so detrimental to the black community, like Precious, a piece of junk movie that white people gave the most rewarded black film in history, most nominated black film in history, the magnum opus of black, cinema, Precious. And you want a reward for it. So you won't, just because they gave you an Oscar as best supporting actress, you feel as though you're owed a certain amount of money, even though that wasn't even a comedy. Now that was a drama. You didn't get the Oscar for a comedy. You didn't get a Grammy or something for a comedy album. You got an Oscar for playing, a mammy who pretty much was molesting a child with HIV, and her father had HIV. I mean, come on, that's what you got. But that's another video. But what I'm saying is, she wanted a certain amount of money. She didn't take her emotions out of it, because once they decided to go their other ways, it's business. In business, you're not gonna always come together on a number. You're not, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're that upset, if you're that angry, you take that anger and you funnel it into buying and creating your own streaming service. And instead of you going around doing all these interviews, and I'm gonna be completely honest, but let's say she did do these interviews, but she has her own streaming service, I would respect the hell out of Monique. Because then Monique is not begging for white people to give her a seat at their door, a seat at the side of the table so she can eat some crumbs. She's saying, look, okay, white guys, you got something rolling, but I can do it too. Watch this. And then she would have her own streaming service, which is what I just sat here and outlined to you people. But when I say this, a lot of times people argue with me and disagree with me on things that I really don't think is necessary. Because the fact still remains that we are a slave. We still have slaves. We're still slaves mentally. When you're truly free mentally, you won't sit here and argue and complain about the fact that someone's not getting paid a higher salary. Well, we think that Monique is right because, black women aren't getting paid. You don't own it. I didn't start this business for you to get an equal pay. You're never going to get treated fairly in a white man's business. Just face it. So what are you going to do about it? Beg the government and try to shame the white man that pay you the same? Is that what you're going to do? Because let's be honest, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think this is racism. I think, and the reason I'll say that, and I'm going to give you a real good, I think this case is impeccable. So Netflix, who gives all these black people leads and let black people come in and put, cheap, low budget black films. They got a lot of black films from independent filmmakers. They go straight to Netflix. Tons of black people that are getting jobs. They're showing a lot of Tyler Perry movies on there. They're showing a lot of, what else are they showing? I mean, come on, man. I mean, Netflix is pretty much putting up a lot of money for people like Monique, for people like, not necessarily Monique herself, but a lot of different individuals. Will Smith is black. They just gave him he just did a $90 million movie over there. Who else is over there? They did Luke Cage over there. Just about all black cast. What else did they do? I mean, they're doing so much. And I'm not saying this like I'm so like, hey, look at this as a good white guy. Because I'm just saying that Netflix is one of the few companies that doesn't follow the rules that all the other rest of Hollywood does. They're shaking Hollywood up. Hollywood is afraid of Netflix because they're breaking the mold of what's right, what we're accustomed to. They're giving checks to everybody right now. So the thing is, what you need to do is, and that's why, let me go back. I think the reason that she wasn't offered that much was, quite frankly, Charlamagne was right. She's not as hot as she thinks she is. And that's that. So, have a great day. And I just wanted to come up here and give you guys a more calm video where I wasn't, so turned up and just screaming and just calling people names. Yeah, I was turned up last night when I did that video about Monique, because I feel like I'm tired. What I get tired of is black people screaming victim all the time. You're not victims every time. Look, I'll be the first person. I'm for reparations. I believe that they took land through sundown towns. I believe they did the Jim Crow, the states, the federal government, the military. Everybody has done black people wrong. And that is pretty much why black people were where they were in the 1960s when we started getting into these social programs. And then in those letters, the Moynihan report, all these different things they were saying about us, I think it's clear that black people have been treated unfairly. That's not the gist of my argument when I say we're not victims. When I say we're not victims, you as an individual have things at your disposal. You are the wealthiest black person on the face of this earth. You, like people like Monique, can get our hands on $25,000 and start our own streaming service. And every time she does an interview, in fact, this is what I would do. I would have a nice, friendly, warm attitude. I would say the same things, just maybe in a nicer way. And I would probably go out here and try to reach out to all these underserved people that you say are being treated unfairly and start creating our own content. You see what I'm saying? BET became BET because Bob Johnson felt like he was going to create his own content for black people, and that's what he did. We've lost that, man. We have lost that independent spirit. I'm sorry, we have. And I'm not going to sit here and allow us to waddle in pity and shame. I just listened to people call up for the donkey of the day on YouTube yesterday, and a lot of people, well, I'm a black woman and I work here and I'm not getting paid fairly. But that has nothing to do with Monique not having the ability to sell out a 20,000 seat arena. Because if you take 21,000 and you divide it by 26, it's about 899. Somewhere in there, roughly 800 is 799 somewhere. That's about the size of a club. That's about what Monique is getting. So they probably checked her numbers in ticket sales and they said, this is what we can offer. That's why they did that, because she's probably right now, that's really where she is. She's just not as good as she thinks she is. She only will bring about 800. I can honestly see Monique only bringing about 800 people today. Monique took a 5-year hiatus after Precious and didn't do anything. So I'm sorry. So yes, she would probably bring about 800 people to see her. That's about right. And when the Breakfast Club said, I don't think they were wrong, it was foul to offer her $500,000. Well, the numbers justify $500,000, to be completely honest with you. That's probably about right. If you can only bring about 800. If I own a club and I say I'm going to have Monique there and I market it hard, I'll be good to get 800 people to show up. That's damn good. At what? So if you're playing a club, that type of venue, let's say they charging $40 to get in. I'm only gonna make $40,000. What's that? $32,000 on the table. That's just off the door, maybe with the liquor. But what if you don't get the liquor because you're a promoter? You might have to split the door. You don't. So no, I wouldn't give her half. I would have offered her $500,000, probably less. So that's why they couldn't make the math work. That's business. If it was a black man that owned Netflix, I would say the same exact thing. And she's saying gender. And see, the issue is, this is the thing that made sense on paper. It makes sense on paper, but just because someone didn't give you what you wanted, she went right to race and gender. Never mind, they just gave 2 black men $20 million apiece. Not only did she do that, she's pocket watching and talking about how much money they got. Therein is what I'm talking about a ruling class mentality. Because a ruling class person can step away from their emotions and say, okay, that's why white people run us. Rule us. They rule over our ass because they know how to turn off their emotions. Black people right now are making videos bragging about how she got Charlemagne told and she did this and she did that. That is a problem, people. That is a problem. Because Charlemagne, if you get away from all of the emotionalism and all of the issues and things that she said, it was just a bunch of show. It was like a peacock. She was just showing her feathers and making all these comments about him being a slave and, escorting his wife into the master's house and stuff. You doing all that, but this guy asked you 3 or 4 basic questions throughout the interview and you never could answer them. All you could say was, what about my resume? What about the fact that white people recognized me and gave me an Oscar? White people validated me, so I should get paid more. That's what you said. It wasn't worded that way, but that's exactly what it is. See, I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm gonna be completely honest, and I'm gonna end this video. Go back to the year 2007, right? Because right now, maybe some of you guys are too old to probably remember this, or too young. But when Soulja Boy first came out, Soulja Boy was big, huge. I remember there was a time Soulja Boy could perform in the Madison Square Garden. And I know you people will laugh like, man, you crazy, ain't nobody going there. Let me tell you something. When he dropped that Crank That Soulja Boy song, he literally would have filled up Madison Square Garden. Soulja Boy was huge. Kiss Me Through the Phone and all that. When he was hot, he was white hot, right? Let me ask you this. How did Soulja Boy get started? On the internet. And they came and found Soulja Boy. Right now, you got people in the hip hop industry that are independent, that aren't signed, right? These people are touring. And I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. I'm from Montgomery. There's a group by the name of Deuce Comrades. And they were offered $1 million from Universal. This was some years ago. And they turned it down. And I thought it was crazy until I actually talked to one of the guys that knew him and was real close to him, because they from my neighborhood, Ridgecrest. And he said, man, look, I mean, it's like, I think it was like 5 or 6 of them in the group or what. I mean, not all of them. It was only about 3 of them that really would even try to rap, but they all had they were all trying to be signed as a group. So what happened, it was like, they said, look, it's not even worth it. We're touring and we're getting, we're doing 4 shows a week, literally. I remember when, what's his face, A-Bay, Hurricane Chris came out, I was promoting concerts. And I saw his schedule. His manager sent us his schedule just off that single, A-Bay, that single right there. This guy was booked. He only had 3 Wednesdays open for that month. And I think it was, what was that, 2007? I think that was 2007. It was like August 2007 when I saw that schedule. That song, you think I'm lying, go look it up. And that guy, when that song was out, was so hot that he only had 3 days free. Now you're like, well, what's the big deal? Well, he was getting $4,000-$5,000 a show, and you're like, well, that's $150,000 a month. He literally had maybe a 4 or 5 month run where he made $600,000-$700,000 just in 4 months off of one single. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, if you're gonna be hot and you're gonna fill up arenas, then Monique has to do the work. It's clear that the contract that her husband released stated that if she cannot perform the exact same material for over 2 years. That doesn't mean that she couldn't go create new material and go right back on the road the next day. That is what her so-called manager, who I call Funky Fingers Productions from, you remember In Living Color, Funky Fingers Productions, he didn't admit that. He said that she couldn't tour for 2 years, which is erroneous. So you telling me Netflix wanted you to just go sit down for $500,000, even you making millions of dollars a year, over $1 million a year. They want you to sit down for 2 years. All you had to do was just tell them that's not fair. I mean, you can't, they wouldn't even, first of all, they would not even went and talk to you, because Netflix is in business. They would have known off the top, well, we can't work a deal out. No, the deal Netflix sent you was that you can't perform the exact same material. But you see, the problem is Monique wants to use that same material, and they were too lazy to go out and create new material. And when they did the interview at Power 105, they didn't say that. This is what I mean by separating emotions from business and being straight up and being honest with yourself. You have to be honest. Monique needs to be honest with herself and say, no, it wasn't racism. I'm just not as hot as I used to be. And I need to get back on my game. I need to be out here doing more shows. I need to be out here. I need to lower my price. I need to, drum up to get someone to really manage my portfolio as far as how, the assets and things that I have, as far as I need to get someone to manage my Facebook, someone to manage, make sure that I'm popping. I'm dropping videos every few minutes. That's what a lot of comedians do. That's how DC Young Fly became DC Young Fly. That's why DC Young Fly has been on the same, he was in Almost Christmas. Can he brag and say the same thing? He pretty much can. I would say DC Young Fly has more buzz than Monique has right now. More people will come to see DC Young Fly right now than they will to come see Monique, a so-called legend. That has to do with letting your emotions go from business. Namely, fire your husband as your manager, because he is incompetent. If you look and go on IMDb and look at the website and look at his accolades, he has not managed, he has not done the things. He's executive producers of the Parkers in 2009. He met her and they got married in 2006. He was an extra on the Parkers called Guy. It was just Guy. He was just some random extra. He started dating her, they got married. And then from that point on, he started managing her career without any prior experience. And he's shown he's incompetent and he's burned bridges wherever he's gone. That's what I mean about you. It's business and it's emotion. I love you. You my husband. We're going to be together till I die. But you're not finna manage and fuck up my money. That's black people. We have a problem with that. We can't do that. I will have to tell him. I will have to sit him down and tell him, look, man, we are not in a position. Instead of you going and cussing and trying to do the scorched earth and trying to mess everybody up and mess up Will Packer and mess up Oprah and which you're not really doing it. You're only messing yourself up. Lee Daniels, you're not hurting yourself. You're not hurting them. You're hurting yourself. The smart thing to do now, the more interviews you do, the more people are really feeling sorry for Oprah, Tyler Perry, Lee Daniels, and Will Packer. Because now, after you sat there and said all that stuff you said and insulted Charlamagne, you can't control your emotions. This is ruling class mentality. People see to be king. What did T'Chaka tell T'Challa? He said, if you're gonna be king, a good man with a good heart, it's hard for a man like that to be king if you got a good heart. What did he mean? If you're gonna rule, you're gonna have to make tough decisions. It's just like in business. In business, you're gonna have to make tough decisions, and you're gonna have to be able to shut your emotions off. The reason we call white people heartless and they call them the devil is because they can shut their emotions off. And I hate to say it, we need to learn from that. Not in the sense of just being evil and killing and slaughtering people. No, by no stretch. That's not what I mean. But what I mean by that is when it comes to business, you need to understand this is business, this is marriage, this is love, and this is my relationship. These two need to be separate. So that's all I got to say. Thank you guys and have a blessed evening. Thank you.